This is another episode of Business Blackjack where I discuss the good, the bad, the sexy, and the gritty of business and what I learned from some of my encounters with other businesses. Driven Mofos, welcome back to another episode of The Underestimated Entrepreneur. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Michael Mojo. I'm the founder of Mojo Human Performance Institute, where we focus on business, mindset, and lifestyle hacking for driven mofos. The reason why I do these episodes is that most people will waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them. Anyway, this is an episode of Business Blackjack. This is where I discuss the good, the bad, the sexy, and the gritty of what I learned from my encounters with other people's businesses and how others can improve their odds of winning in business by learning from some of these lessons. All right, let's talk about it. So last week, I was staying at a hotel. We had our Triumph event, which is our leadership and influence event. So we had a whole bunch of business owners there, a whole bunch of managers, and we're talking about leadership and influence. So normally when that happens, we stay at a hotel for the week because it's a 7-day course. It saves me driving home every day and wasting an hour to an hour and a half of my day having to drive back and forth. So we'd normally just book out a hotel. So anyway, I'm staying at one of the major hotels here in the city of Adelaide. The hotel's not bad. It's a well-known brand. But what I found was that first thing in the morning when I went down to breakfast, and normally you can tell a lot about a hotel by the quality of their service. Okay, when you stay at a hotel, the majority of hotels are the same. Like some of them have better rooms and the qualities are better. This hotel's a bit old. It's a bit outdated. They're doing renos and stuff to clean it all up. But anyway, not a bad hotel. They got a nice little cocktail lounge downstairs and a nice little lobby area. And anyway, normally when I've stayed there before, it's actually been really great. They've got a fantastic gym in there. It's a bit old school, but it's great. They've got all this equipment and everything. So I don't mind staying there. But this time, I go down for my breakfast in the morning and it was an absolute clusterfuck. And it really made me think about doing this episode, but also what we could learn from it. And so let me talk about it. So the first thing is I walk up to go to sit down for breakfast. Now, sometimes when I stay here at the Hilton in Adelaide, they're normally great. They normally have 2 people on the front counter. They have also a coffee lounge where you can just go and have a coffee and order your coffee if you don't want to go into the main breakfast area. But straight away at the Hilton, normally you walk up, they say, come in, they look at your room number or whatever, and then you can just go grab a seat wherever you want and help yourself to the buffet and all that. They're great. Now, this place here, they used to be the same, but I don't know if they've got new management, and I don't want to name the hotel, but you might figure it out. I walk up to the counter, and there's about 3 people in front of me, and I'm standing there, and I'm waiting, and just waiting, and there's still no one coming to the counter. Anyway, a couple of minutes later, this person walks behind the counter, and obviously it's the maitre d' or whatever you want to call them. They come over, they get on this little iPad. They ask the person, what's your room number? They punch in, and then they grab the iPad and walk these people over to the table. Then they sit the people down at the table, and so, I'm still second in line now. I was third, and now I'm second. And we're just waiting, and we're waiting. And it looks like they're taking an order and doing all this sort of stuff. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here? Like normally when you go to a restaurant, there's someone to greet you. They will take you to the table or they will, get you sat down straight away so that you can eat, so that you just feel like you're welcomed. But we're just standing there waiting and you can feel the anxiety and the animosity in anyone. The lineup behind me is building up. And then, so all of a sudden, this other person comes and they walk across and they grab a piece of paper and a pen and they ask them the room number and then they walk them to the table. And so I'm standing there, I'm at the front of the line. Now I'm about 12 minutes in and no one's really even acknowledged that I'm there and the lineup behind me. And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? So anyway, they come across, person with the iPad comes back, takes me to the seat. They walk me across to a table, get me seated. Then they ask if I would like a coffee. They asked if Jess would like something to drink. So then we place our order. Then they walk off and they go into the back of the kitchen area and they're fucking around back there. And I watch and there's no one really monitoring the front counter, even though there's a lineup of people. And during that morning, I just watched what was going on. And what I saw was that there were 2 people in suits, which I assume were the head of the restaurant or the maitre d's or whatever you want to call them. And they didn't really have any leadership or management capacity. So no one was leading. Then there was a whole bunch of waiters and waitresses who were walking out, taking out food. Then all of a sudden, I would watch these people walk out from the back of the counter who I assume were the heads of the restaurant. And they would lead people to a table. Then they would go get a coffee for someone. Then they would pick up a bunch of glasses and walk them out the back that needed cleaning. Then they would come back out, move some stuff around on the buffet. Then they'd go back and go get the next person who's waiting to be seated. They would then take them back to go get another table. And it was just like this disorganized chaos. And what I noticed and why I wanted to talk about it on this episode of Business Blackjack, where we go and we break down encounters of other people's businesses, is because what it made me realize is how important good management and good leadership is, and the ability of giving people clear direction. Because what I saw was that because there was no one really there who was managing, even though it looked like there were two managers, both of those managers were doing so many different tasks, and it looked like they were more interested in being busy than they were doing an actual job, which was leading others. And so it's so important that when you're a manager or when you're a leader in a business, that you have to lead and you have to manage others. If you don't give clear direction, you'll just have a whole team of people who are just busy doing things, but there's no real guidance or no real direction. And to me, this is like, getting 20 people all to run into a lake and saying swim, and everyone just swims in different directions because there's no start line, there's no finish line, and there's no direction. And so you end up with people everywhere. And what happened was in this morning, and I stayed there for 7 days straight, so I saw it happen every morning, it didn't change, where there was just this disorganized chaos happening every morning. This is also important for business owners, is really thinking about what's important from a customer's point of view. And I think a lot of businesses can make these mistakes, and I know we've made them a lot before, and I've seen my team make these mistakes where they get so involved in the process or the structures of the business, they forget about what's really important, which is the customer. And so what I saw was that why all these customers were lining up and these people were walking around, picking up glasses, taking stuff out the back, no one was managing and directing the staff and saying, hey, this person, can you take them to be seated? Could you grab their order? And then directing the next person. And so there was this consistent flow within the business or within the cafe or the kitchen or the restaurant. What I saw was that it was just that the managers and the leaders wanted to be busy as well. So they were busy doing lots of other stuff. And they were essentially doing the same thing as the waiters and the waitresses. And the waiters and the waitresses weren't really managing anything. So everyone was just running around doing whatever they could quickly see out of the corner of their eye, which then, I guess, made them feel productive or busy. But at the same time, there was a lack of productivity because when you had a look at the lineup of the customers who were waiting, it was really bad. Knowing that 3/4 of the restaurant was empty. And I assumed that people didn't want to eat in the restaurant, hence why the restaurant was empty in a major hotel, because it was just such a clusterfuck. And I know that every morning when I went down there, I was expecting to wait in line for anywhere between 5 and 30 minutes just to get seated at my table, which could have been done in 1 to 2 minutes had there been good leadership. If there was someone standing at the counter directing the staff to take people to the table, they would have had a massive turnover of people on their tables, but they also would have been providing great service to the customer. For those of you listening in, this is something to really maybe think about in your own business, is how are you leading your team? How are you managing people? How are you guiding other people in the team to be productive? Because is it more valuable to you at the end of the day to be productive, or is it more valuable for the company or the team as a whole to be productive? And for a lot of small business owners, struggle with the transition of thinking about the team instead of thinking about themselves. Normally, when you're an individual and you work really, really hard, you feel proud at the end of the day because you go, look at what I've done. Whereas when you've got a scaling business and you're starting to bring on more and more staff, it's important to say, look how much the team have produced, not look how much I have done. Because sometimes sitting around thinking is the most productive thing you can do. Sometimes giving direction is the most productive thing that you can do. And sometimes running around and being super productive for yourself means that the whole team stagnate and they can just be stuck and not really achieving great results. And the whole company or the whole business might stagnate or hit a glass ceiling or create huge bottlenecks just because there's no one really leading and managing the team. So anyway, I hope this helps Driven Mofos. It was something to think about. If you do like this episode of Business Blackjack, please jump across, go through. There should be another episode there somewhere. This is the second episode of Business Blackjack. I do love doing this where I get to analyze other people's businesses because there's just so much that we can learn from other people in their business. Not that it's good or bad, because I'm assuming that everyone does the best job that they know how to do. It's normally they either lack the skills or they lack the psychology being able to shift into solving some of the problems and the bottlenecks in their business, and that's why they get trapped. But anyway, if you haven't already done so, Driven Mofos, and you're loving this episode, please jump across to our No BS Business Hacks Facebook group. All you need to do is go to Facebook, in the search bar, type in No BS Business Hacks. You'll see it pop up. Join that group. It's completely free. I'm adding in there new content every day. I've been sharing templates, some tools, different trainings. I just did a Q&A today. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there in the area of finance, wealth creation for business owners, marketing, sales, branding, processes, hiring. There's heaps of stuff that I'm adding in there. So please jump across if you are wanting to grow your business, and I look forward to seeing you in there. And for everybody else, just keep pushing hard, keep crushing it, And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode, Driven Mofos. Keep kicking goals.